What is good? It's Clay with Way of DC, the fishing channel, coming at you today with 10 essential items for getting a creek fishing backpack slash pond fishing backpack, a light backpack that is not going to break your back when you're out there on the water. Something probably more suited to fishing for smaller game or just at your local fishing hole. What I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to provide you with 10 essential items that I think are completely necessary to getting you out on the water and keeping you safe and keeping the fish safe as well. In addition, I'll have 10 or so other items that I think would make life a little easier for you. So without much further ado, let's get into it. The first thing that you're going to need when you go fishing, if you're out there for longer than, an hour or two, you're going to need to bring water with you. Okay, so this is a nice plastic water bag, water bladder that I found on Amazon for about 23 bucks, something like that. What's nice about this is that it fits into this old backpack of mine, and this backpack has the compatibility to use one of these water bladders, and just store it in there. The tube comes out, and what this allows me to do is not really worry about taking my pack off, unscrewing a bottle, drinking, screwing it back on, putting it. That's time wasted on the water. That is time that my line is out of the water, and it's inefficient if your goal is to catch fish. So something else that water bladder does is it frees up a very helpful compartment in a lot of bags that you use for a water bottle. Could also be used for an extra fishing rod or any really cylindrical item, or you could fold your net and put it in there. We'll get to that. Anyways, I think having a water bladder while you're out in the creek is a great idea. If not, just bring a bottle. On to item 2, keeping with the theme of keeping you comfy out on the water, a nice pair of creek shoes. You could take some old sneakers, or you could also just use some crocs or water shoes, but you're gonna want something with a solid bottom for the rocky bottoms of creeks and or ponds or wherever you're fishing, really. But this will allow you to wait a little bit to get into the water to either retrieve a lure or to wade out and fish or cross the creek if you need to. These were a game changer for me, for sure. Third item, sun protection. So you can see I have my first little pair of sun protection here. These also are pretty great for something else, which I'll get into in a second. But on the theme of sun protection, I have my gaiter, which keeps bugs off my face. And I have my hood on my synthetic long sleeve fishing shirt. And this keeps me pretty well protected from the elements, right? Bugs are gonna find it very hard to get to my face. And will be a lot less tempted to. They can't get to my flesh. And yeah, I think each of these articles of clothing is like SPF 55 rated or something like that. Something else that I'm gonna call essential, especially if you're starting out, is a nice pair of fishing gloves. So these gloves will help keep the sun off my hands, first of all. Second of all, they have these little pads here, and when you're first starting out, getting spined by a fish is not very fun. It's very off-putting, and if your goal is to get further into the hobby, make it easy on yourself. Get a pair of gloves with like a thin layer of padding so that you feel comfortable handling sunfish or whatever, smaller fish, and you're not as wary about sticking your fingers into their mouths and lipping them, Anyway, I like these gloves. They're pretty good for the winter, but honestly, like if I'm out there for hours and I'm like, let's say catfishing at night or something like that, I'm gonna want something with a little more warmth. Now these are also fingerless like those gloves, as you can see, and they're great for those colder winter months when you're still gonna need access for like fishing lures and stuff. See, I have my lure and line tying hands, fingers available. So yeah, gloves would be another thing. polarized sunglasses, which is kind of part of the sun deal. So this is a little gray area on the exact number if we're getting to 10 or not, but I'd like 10 because of the alone show. That's how many items the contestants get. Anyway, polarized sunglasses are very helpful for seeing into the water. They protect your eyes, first of all. Second of all, they allow you about 1 foot to 2 feet, sometimes 3, under visibility in the water. And what this does for you, especially if you're fishing a small body of water, is that you can see the fish, you can see where they're at. And if you know where the fish are at, you're a lot more likely to catch them. So, polarized glasses. Anyway, last bit of self-care, a first aid kit. So, I would include a bandana in most first aid kits. It's also just helpful to have one, or to have some kind of towel with you if you need to tear fabric to tie up a wound, or if you need a tourniquet, God forbid, or something happens out there, you have a little piece of cloth which can come in handy. Next thing I have is just this little pack for first aid. You know, in addition to having some extra contacts in there, I put Band-Aids, Neosporin, anything you need to help with minor abrasion. I think I have some bee sting or bug bite ointment, something like that. Anyway, this little pouch does it all for me. Some people like to have bigger kits, but again, this is my light creek bag, so I'm trying to keep it light. Okay, next essential item is a pair of pliers. Now, this is getting more into the territory of helping the fish. Now, why we want to help the fish is because we want more fish to survive. You don't want to damage a living being. You're a good person. Okay, got that established. That's good. These are going to help you remove hooks. If you're feeling a little squeamish about doing it by hand at first, no problem. Protect your fingers. Use one of these. I think these are essential. It's because if a fish is gut hooked, which means the hook has gone all the way into their mouth and has either punctured their stomach or a little further down their throat cavity, esophagus. Do fish have esophagus? I don't know. Anyway, this is going to help you be able to turn the hook and remove it without killing the fish. After you turn the hook and rotate it, it should pop out and you pull it out through the fish's mouth without rehooking it, right? That's going to save a lot of fish. And you may have a couple of unsuccessful surgeries like I did at the beginning and lose a fish or two, but I can safely say that as far as I know, I have released successfully about 130 or so fish from the first 6 months that I've been fishing, and not had any deaths besides the first couple. Item number 6, a pair of your very own line scissors. Now these scissors came with a retractable little thing right here, which is really helpful if I can just keep it in my backpack. Some people just like to carry around, in a pinch, I guess, nail clippers will do. But I really like this. It's because this can cut braided line very well. And I need to do that because I use braided line. Number 7 is a tackle box. And I'll show you my little plano. I think I got for $3 or something like that. But it has everything that I use out on the creek in it. I could probably fish every day for a month with what I have in the spot. I mean, if I needed to, you know? I'd probably never need to fish for a month with everything in the spot. That'd be crazy. Anyway, small tackle box for creek fishing suits my purposes. In addition, what I also have for tackle storage, now this is optional, is to have some bags for small plastics. I like to keep them outside of the tray so that the plastic doesn't warp the plastic inside the tray. And certain small plastics you can't put together with other ones. It's because either the colors will bleed, that's why I have these red ones by themselves, because if I put them with these, all of these will be turned red and lose their original color. So another thing I like to do is I like to pre-hook rigs, or I'd like to pre-rig my soft plastics and put one in the bag. Shuts out one rod. Thank you for that tip. And soft plastics are great. Do not sleep on soft plastics when starting out. As tempting as these harbors are. The other kind of tackle storage that I have is the sunglass case that, I don't know if these were the glasses that came in these, but anyway, I also use that case too. But larger lures, I like to put in here, and that way I can convert my small creek bag into just a good old river / lake fishing bag. If I'm only going out for a few hours that day, I don't need to carry my whole kit with me. I can just pop this little sucker in here, and then I'm ready to fish with my bait caster. Fish grippers. This is for the fish, again, handling them. Using a pair of these, especially when starting out, smart idea. You're less likely to get spined. It'll also allow you to weigh your fish if you're into that kind of thing. And I like these grippers. They've suited me really well. I like the color, nice Carolina blue, and yeah. Last item on the essentials list. Now I'm gonna include this as an essential. It's not honestly an essential. You don't have to fish with this, but you're gonna land a lot more fish if you had a net. And I have a little folding net. It's not so little actually, but I've landed 3 or 4 pound catfish with this. But it folds up nice, and I can fit it in the water bottle holder in my bag. And yeah, I like carrying a net around because if I'm having a slow day fishing, I can serve my community and open my net up and pick up some trash, get the plastic out of the river. It's a great thing to do, especially if you fish, to give a little bit of extra effort to keep your waters clear. I highly recommend carrying a net and doing some service for your community. Why not, huh? Moving on to non-essential items. First on the list, that is probably in most people's arsenals, is a scale. Now, what's really cool about these lip grippers that we mentioned before is you put that on there, the fish is lip gripped, you can weigh it, right? Fantastico, huh? Now what's cool about this little thing is it also has measuring tape on it so that you can measure the fish's length as well. And measuring fish is not essential to fishing, but I think it's a good idea. So I'm not putting it as essential, but it's honestly, it's more fun if you can weigh and you have bragging rights and take a little picture of the weight of your fish, and keeps you honest out there. Another thing that you can put into your pack or really hang off of it would be a towel. And I just have this little towel which is clipped on a carabiner back of my bag. And why I bring a towel is A, just if you need a towel for whatever, it's extra cloth, fabric, first aid needs. B, if you set this down, you can put your rod and most importantly your reel on top of it if it's dirty or sandy where you're at. And having just a little towel to put your reel on keeps it a lot cleaner. So I've made a habit of keeping this as part of my set. All right, a third non-essential item. I don't know, I debated whether to make this essential. I think this is more, wow, the net's a really good idea. So I didn't want to lose that because our environment is important, but this is almost like quasi-essential. Having an extra pair of pliers is going to allow you, if you have a hook that bends outwards, you can do a little surgery on it. You can rebend that hook back to the shape that you want it at. Or if you need to deal with any of your tackle, having 2 metallic tools in either hand can help you be a lot more crafty out on the water. So also, if you forget your original pair of pliers, you got it back up. Fourth non-essential, I have a little scale, and what I use this for is for measuring lures. If I forget what exact weight a lure is, I can always just plop it on here and I can see how many percentage of an ounce it is. Having this scale has helped me not have to worry about labeling all my tackle perfectly and keeping it in exact order. But if I just need a quick weight check on my lure, this will do. All right, fifth non-essential, knife. Knives are handy. If you're out in nature and on the water, it's just a good idea typically to carry one I typically either put this in my bag or in my car. If your scissors break or you lose them, you have a knife as a backup, as a cutting tool. One thing that I like to use, especially when I'm creek fishing, is just to have a couple of hook keepers on me. And what these do is they pop onto treble hooks, and that way I can take a lure and I can put it in my pocket. And that keeps me from hooking my clothing and ruining it. It also can be helpful to organize your lures with these, or just throw them in a big Ziploc bag together and they won't get tangled, or throw them into the, sunglass case. And the treble hook lures I have in here, I'll have these on them because it's just a lot easier to manage. I have my wacky rigger. Now, what this is nice is sometimes if you wrap line around your hand, especially if it's braided line, you run a risk of getting cut. And so braided line can be very sharp, especially if you're pulling a heavy weight or you get snagged. You're trying to pull. Sometimes I just wrap it around this tube, which is great. The other function of this tube is that you can pop a worm into the hole that's in the middle, and then you take one of these little rubber pieces and you put the hook inside the tube with the worm, and then you pop the rubber piece onto it, so that you end up having a wacky rig. And I'll show you what a wacky rig looks like in a second. 8, I think. Are we 8? Not essential. I bring some duct tape. Never know. It's green, so it has visibility. Like if you needed to mark a trail, or if you just need duct tape, this is a great idea to carry with you. Another non-essential that I have is paracord. And this paracord is actually like a kind of special survival paracord. It has a lot of different strands, as you can see. It actually does have an extra piece of fishing line in here somewhere. But these strands can either function. I think there's a fire starter strand. Yeah, there's wax on here. There's a fishing hook strand. A lot of different kinds of strands, but God forbid if you got hooked and you needed to do the string trick where you push the hook, you push the barb so that it dislodges, turning it away from, turning the shank of the hook away so that the barb pokes out, and then you yank on the string and it pulls the hook out. Usually with minimal damage, but honestly, if you're feeling squeamish about that, just go to a hospital, or carry a pair of bolt cutters with you and rotate the hook in. Getting yourself hooked is not common at all, but it does happen. So if you fish long enough, it'll probably happen to you, but it's definitely not the end of the world. I guess other essentials I keep, I keep these little floats. It's usually for catfishing, but I have some bobbers in here as well. But the last and maybe most important thing I'll talk about that's involved in this bag is line management. And I have a bunch of spools of leader line that I use. I have 12-pound mono, 15-pound fluoro, 10-pound fluoro, 6-pound fluoro, 4-pound fluoro. But these little discs are great to just tie a certain length, 20 to 50 yards of line onto, and you can use it as a leader line if you're into that kind of thing. I think this is like 10 or 11, but it's a little bait puck, and I keep little wax worms and things like that in here. Some people might have more ornate bait pucks that you could put live bait in, larger containers that you can pop a few, or 5-10 night crawlers in, and some dirt or bugs or whatever, and it has little air vents so that they'll stay alive, which is great, but there's nothing alive in here. And so these are mummified worms and little crappy baits. So I just keep a little puck of this. If lures are not working that day, sometimes just a few crappy baits balled up onto a hook or a wax worm will do the trick. Next best thing to a live bait, very last essential, non-essential. I guess this puts us at 11 or 12 or something. This is a walking stick I made. I like using it for the creek. And what a walking stick can do is provide you a third point of stability, which is really helpful if you're wading out into a river where there's a lot of slippery rocks. Another thing it can do is it can keep small critters or snakes or something that you don't want. You can keep it away with this, which is probably a lot better a defense mechanism than like a knife. So sticks are great for keeping things away. Moving on to the hardware. Let's get into it. This is my 5/6 ultralight Okuma rod with a Daiwa QZ reel. I think total this cost me about 60 bucks maybe to get this ultralight setup. And I really like it at the 5/6. What I use this rod for mostly is like for a little jerk bait. This is a little sinking jerk bait right here, micro jerk bait, if you want to call it that. I really like the shorter length because I'm a lot less likely to get hung up on branches or grass or other things that's around you or behind you. If you have a shorter rod, it's a lot easier to maneuver, especially if you're going to be using reaction lures and twitching your rod tip. So, next rod is my worm rod, and then I will show you the wacky rig. So here is the famous wacky rig. I would love if the French invented it and called it the wacky rig. Okay, anyway, this is great. And you can see there's a little yellow band, and I put that on with the wacky rig tool. What's great about these is that they're weedless. You can see that there's a little clip right here that comes around and guards the hook from getting snagged. The worm is attached to the hook via the little rubber ring, and it is a no fuss, no muss way of fishing. It's very effective. I put this on my 6-foot ultralight rod just because I like a little bit of extra reach, especially if I'm casting vertical lures that move less horizontally. I can find I get a little bit of extra distance with the extra inches on this rod than the Okuma. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, this is a very supple, bendy Guggen rod, and I believe a 1000 series Guggen reel. And I like them Guggens. I like the products, at least, and their content has been very helpful to me. So, speaking of the Guggen, we have a Guggen Squad Finesse Light rod, and this Finesse Light has a little bit more backbone to it. So I mean, say if I, hooked into a 4 or 5, one of these days it'll happen, a 4 or 5 pound bass or something like that, or a snakehead, you have a fighting chance on this still. On those creek rods, they're gonna break you off. But this can throw a little bit heavier line, and it does me. It's a great like in between rod that can fish at a lake, a pond, a creek. It does great with wacky rigs, and it also does great with like drop shots, any kind of finesse, soft bait, and it's a nice rod. I mean, it's been through a lot, and it's held up well. On it, I have a 20-year-old Shimano Sahara reel, which is holding up great. I cleaned it out a little bit a couple months ago, and I mean, it functions just like new, so it's great. Don't sleep on your old fishing gear. You don't have to go out and buy new stuff if you have stuff that works. And found that little gem in the garage, and it survived the elements. We've been through rods, we've been through reels, we've been through line, tackle. All right, well, hey, thank you so much for joining me today, and stay tuned because I'm going to post another video pretty soon about my catfishing setup, which is basically I use the same bag, but there's just a few different kinds of things that I have in there. I'm going to get more in depth about what you need to rig. And in another video, I'm going to post about the first 5 techniques that I think you should learn to fish, and especially in creeks, small water kind of stuff when you're starting out and you're catching like sunfish and small bass and stuff like that. There's probably about, you really want to take 3 to 4, maybe 5 techniques and focus on them for 6 months at least, and then you can move on to others, but maybe 3 to 6 months. Anyway, we'll get more into that next time. I sure appreciate you tuning in. Give me a subscribe. If you see anything that you're excited by, post in the comments below. If you think that I'm missing something from my pack, I would love to hear about it, because I'm obviously a total gearhead and like to be prepared for being out on the water. Anyways, more to come, and I appreciate you tuning in. Till next time, friend.